going to lose weight. Not now. In any case, this birth of the achiever, which is a necessary part of our existence, and leads to yet another phase of transition, because a time comes when the achiever is not satisfied with all the achievements. There's a desire to connect, a desire for meaningful relationships, a desire to give, even though the giving is out of ego gratification. The giving is because I feel good. It pleases my self-image. It's your average philanthropist is giving so that his name or her name can be on the plaque in the front lobby of the hospital. It's part of the facets of the diamond, the facets, the different phases of transition that simultaneously coexist within us. The giver is still, though, giving out of a sense of ego gratification. The ego is still the internal reference point. So up until this stage, we're talking about the first three levels of awareness: sleeping, dreaming, waking. Those who have gone before us, the seers, the prophets, the sages, the shamans, the healers, the Merlins, the wizards, they say there's more to life. There are stages of consciousness that are far more miraculous and magical. But most people remain in this circle for their entire life. We will talk about the further evolution of consciousness as we go beyond the giver and for the first time connect with the next phase of our evolution, which is taking us away from waking state and waking us to yet another state of consciousness that comes with the birth of the next stage. Right now, we're all in waking state, presumably. And everything appears very real to us. But it's real only for the waking state. Just like when you're in the dream state, everything appears very real to you. It's only valid for the dream state, though. In the dream state, you're experiencing dreams, and they're very real. It's only after you wake up from the dream that in hindsight you say, aha, that was a dream, how interesting, now I'm awake. Well, the wizards before us say this is true of the waking state as well. It's real because you're in it, just like you were in the dream. And the day shall come when you will wake up from this and look back and say, aha, the waking state, how interesting. We tend to think that the dream is not real because it's manufactured in our brain. But we don't realize that this reality, with its stars and galaxies and trees and rainbows, and you and me, is also manufactured in the brain. The brain and our senses are transducers that take that radically ambiguous and ceaselessly flowing quantum soup and convert it into material reality. The magic is here. The magic is inside consciousness, which conceives and governs and creates and becomes the world of form and phenomenon. We take an energy soup, an information soup, and we convert it into material reality here in a certain state of consciousness that we call waking state of consciousness. But as we go beyond this waking state of consciousness, we start to glimpse our own soul and get in touch with that, we will realize that there's a state of transcendence where this world of form and phenomenon becomes valid only for this state of physiology and this state of consciousness. Consciousness creates its own physiology. And each state of physiology has a certain style of functioning. The brain waves function in a certain way. Your heart rate, your breathing, your patterns of information and energy in the body are relevant only to that state. So the dream state has its own metabolic rate, its own physiology. The sleeping state has its own metabolic rate, its own physiology. The waking state has its own. And in each of these, we construct different realities. Let us see, as we go along the way of the wizard, what the next stage is and what happens when the seeker is born. On the way of the wizard, we have encountered ourselves first as innocents and then as those that are seeking ego gratification and trying to control and manipulate and seek approval. We have seen that giving birth to the giver. And now we have also seen that giving birth to the achiever. The order, in fact, was innocent, ego, achiever, giver. We've seen these different facets of ourselves, and we recognize that there is still a hunger, a thirst for something more. The toys and approval and sex and power and money and giving are not complete gods. They were gods, part of the infinity of expressions that the eternal cosmic mind takes, the roles we play. But yet, there is an eagerness for spiritual experience. Material joys no longer bring total fulfillment. And there is this insight somewhere that everything that is material is transient. It's enjoyable, but it's transient. There is the confrontation for the first time that all our experiences have a beginning and a middle and an end. There is the possibility of knowing that, in fact, one day life itself as we know it might end. The transient nature of things is grasped. Gautama Buddha, when he first encountered the seeker within him, he said, this lifetime of ours is as transient as autumn clouds. To watch the birth and death of beings is like looking at the movements of a dance. A lifetime is like a flash of lightning in the sky, rushing by like a torrent down a steep mountain. Emily Dickinson, when she pierced the veil of Maya, the veil of illusion that matter manifests as, she picks up a little bit of dirt, a little bit of dust, a handful of dust in her hand, pierces the veil of Maya or illusion, recognizes that dust is more than dirt. It is the calling card of the past. Listen to her. Emily Dickinson. This quiet dust was gentlemen and ladies, and lads and girls, was laughter and ability and sign, and frocks and curls. This passive place, a summer's nimble passion, where bloom and bees fulfilled their oriental circuit, then ceased, like these. So the seeker is recognizing for the first time the reality of mortality. And as we recognize the reality of mortality, life becomes magical. Castaneda once said in one of his books, he said, when you know that death is stalking you in every moment of your life will become magical. Because your priorities will change. Your priorities will change. You will no longer have the same priorities. You'll still enjoy the world, but no longer will you need that approval, that control. You may become less immune to criticism. You will no longer be fearful of challenges. You will begin to seek solitude. Your ego will still be there, but it's not the loneliness of the ego that will dominate your awareness, but the solitude of the seeker. Loneliness is a terrible thing. It's full of fear. It's the fear-based identity of the ego. But solitude is the knowingness of our universality. It's that entering that domain of our awareness where you find that there's an all-embracing connection. And this is the connection of you with everything that exists. So the characteristics of the seeker begin to emerge. There's a desire to escape the boundaries of time and space. There's a desire to discover one's essence as timeless. The giving now takes on a new texture. The giving is more out of love and compassion. Love has no other purpose anymore than loving. Again, St. Augustine said once, I am in love with loving. St. Bernard says, discovering the seeker in himself, love seeks no cause beyond itself and no fruit. It is its own fruit and its own enjoyment. I love because I love. And this experience comes through the experience of solitude. It comes through the need for solitude. St. John of the Cross, San Juan de la Cruz, says of solitude, says the conditions of the solitary bird are 5. The first, that it flies to the highest point. The second, that it does not suffer for company, not even of its own kind. The third, that it aims its beak to the skies. The fourth, that it does not have any definite color. The color was from the ego. And the fifth, that it sings very softly. The ego has surrendered its needs to control, to defend, to predict. The ego is now aware that death is stalking it and that priorities are changing. So let me read to you the discovery of this seeker through Tagore's poetic wisdom, through his insight when he first confronted death, the reality of death, and when his priorities changed. I know that the day will come when my sight of this earth shall be lost, and life will take its leave in silence, drawing the last curtain over my eyes. Yet stars will watch at night, and morning rise as before, and hours heave like sea waves, casting up pleasures and pains. When I think of this end of my moments, the barrier of the moments breaks, and I see by the light of death your world with its careless treasures. Rare is its lowliest seat, rare is its meanest of lives, things that I longed for in vain, and things that I got, let them pass. Let me but truly possess the things that I ever spurned and overlooked. This then is the birth of the seeker, where there is self-reliance, a willingness to trust. Addictions begin to wane off in this stage. Giving is more out of love and compassion, not expecting anything in return, not even gratitude. And there are glimpses of the soul. And as one glimpses the soul and recognizes that this soul is something that cannot be squeezed into the volume of this body, or even the span of this lifetime, there is a comfort with the knowledge of physical mortality. And so the seeker is born, and now there is a little bit of insight into this fourth state of consciousness. The fourth state of consciousness is that the seeker is beginning to find the seer, is beginning to find the one that he's looking for, she's looking for, is the one that is doing the looking. And as one encounters this aspect of oneself, and because this self, this soul, this glimpse of the soul, which is the fourth state of consciousness, beyond waking, dreaming, and sleeping,